All right.
Welcome back to another episode of
The Hafu It.
We are your hosts. I am Kyoko.
I'm Sakura.
And this week we are talking about our white ancestry.
We're talking about our white ancestry. I feel like if you've been following our podcast so far, we've only ever really talked about the Japanese side of our ancestry, and we are mixed race, and that's what this podcast is supposed to be about. So today we're talking about the other side.
Yeah, the other side.
The other side. I really want that like sound.
It's too much just for podcasting.
Oh my God. If you guys would like sound effects to happen in our podcast, let us know because I really want that.
Kyoko's editing and Kyoko's not going to do it.
Oh, she's not going to be down for it. So yeah, I'll go first. So my ancestry is Japanese, French, and Scottish ancestry. Japanese on my father's side. So we're going to be chatting about my mother today, and oddly enough, me and Kyoko both have white mothers, and they're both called Tracy.
They're both called Tracy.
They are both called.
It's a title.
Tracy.
It's not even their
title.
Name. They both
gave it to them.
Tracy.
They're both named Tracy, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
It's out of control.
My mom is half French, half Scottish. French on her mother's side, and Scottish on her father's side. I only know the French side. I don't know my Scottish side at all. I have a little bit of information, but not a lot. So, my French side, we are Prefontaines. So I think basically all Prefontaines that are in Canada all come from the exact same ancestor. So when I was doing research about my family, it looks like we came to Canada in the early 1700s. My ancestor was a part of the French army. He was a barrel cooper, which means that he was like a woodworker. He made barrels and buckets and all those goods from back in the day. Buckets were a necessary part
100%.
of life back then.
100.
And it's funny because Prefontaine roughly translates to a field with a spring. And my last name, Yoshida, means lucky rice field. So I love that both my sides were just like living in the meadows. It's just like, it's all about those fields, honey.
Your name is Sakura too. So it's all
just like planty, earthy.
Yeah. And it makes sense because that's
100%
exactly who you
makes
are.
sense. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So my French ancestry is from Quebec, French Canadian. Most of my ancestors are from the Trois Rivières, the Three Rivers.
The three. Trois.
There are over 270 families in Quebec that have that last name. 94% of all Prefontaines in Canada 94% reside in Quebec. So
Reside.
So I am very French Canadian. In terms of like my Scottish side, I don't know too much about it because even researching my Scottish last name, which is Jarvis, it comes up with some Scottish ancestry, but it looks like it came from Gervais, which is more British.
Which makes sense.
With
Scottish history.
100%, let's be real. Yeah, there was a lot going on back in the day between those two cultures. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know whereabouts we immigrated from. I don't know where we immigrated to. I just know my side of the Scottish was in Canada, in Ontario, but I do know that some of my ancestors did also go to Kentucky in the United States. So yeah, I don't really know, but me and Kyoko are probably going to go to Scotland at some point.
Oh, hell yeah.
And when we are there, I'm going to hunt down my ancestors and let them know.
Hell yeah. Our friend Nikki Minaj is moving to Scotland, hopefully, when borders reopen. So we will have a reason to go there. I've already been to Scotland because I also have Scottish ancestry.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah, she does.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Like reason number 100,017 00. why Sakura and I are exactly like the same in a lot of areas, and it's really freaky. Yeah, so I don't have my breakdown of my ancestry quite that that in depth.
Yeah, I went in deep.
Yeah, she went in deep.
Yeah.
I do know, again, like kind of my identity as being Japanese has always kind of taken the forefront of my identity. But my mom is mixed with First Nations as well as Ukrainian background.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of also in my DNA.
Yeah.
My dad is mixed with Scottish and Japanese.
Hell yeah.
So I believe when I was growing up, my mother called me a Heinz 57, which is a really old term.
Oh my God.
For people who are mixed and you have many, many backgrounds.
I love that.
Yeah, so the Ukrainian side was a part that I got to know pretty well growing up.
Right.
Just because I got to know some of my mom's family when I was growing up. My dad never met his dad. Like, we never got to know his family.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have no idea, like, what we were on that side. I think he's done some work recently to try to dig into that.
Yeah.
Not with, like, full throttle interest, but obviously it's a part of who he is.
Yeah.
So been fairly important. But yeah, I don't know. I don't talk a lot about my my white ancestry as much. Probably because it was just so part of like the forefront of my life growing up. Like,
yeah,
I grew up with my white mother.
And growing up in a white colonized country, it's just all around you. So you don't. Yeah.
I only saw like my Oba-san and my Oji-san. Like, it was once a week for a while I was like really young when my dad lived in Toronto still. And then when he moved out to Vancouver, it was whenever he was in town.
Yeah.
Or whenever my aunt wanted to come and grab me.
Come and grab you.
Yeah,
come and
snatch
you.
me up from the hood that I grew up in.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, and even then, like, my mother's family was not like a large part of our lives.
Okay.
I think she had a lot of strain with certain members of them.
Sure.
She was always more close to the elders on her side of the family. So once they died, we also just like lost touch with the rest of them for a really long time.
Right.
But yeah, I remember when I was being babysat by my Ukrainian grandparents, it was like Grandma Betty and Grandpa Jack, who are both very, very sweet people. Grandma Betty kind of reminded me a lot of, for all y'all who remember the big comfy couch, for those of you who remember what Granny Garbanzo looked like.
Oh my God.
That is exactly what my Grandma Betty looked like.
I love
that's what I picture now. I don't have like a vivid memory of her anymore. She died when I was pretty young. But yeah, whenever they'd like take me in for babysitting, it was a lot of I think more Ukrainian traditions that we went through. I don't remember all of them.
Yeah.
We would have family dinners sometimes where my Grandma Betty would hand make pierogies.
Oh hell yeah.
And I was a really picky eater growing up, so I never ate them.
You what?
Yeah, I was a really picky eater, y'all, until I was a little too old. I won't even like bring it up. I won't even be more specific about it. It's embarrassing. But yeah, I kind of skipped over the homemade dinners when I was growing up with the Ukrainian family.
The Japanese in you was just like,
it was too strong.
You were just like, no.
yeah, I was like mochi only.
Unless it's
in this
gyoza,
body.
I'm not eating it.
Yeah, no,
I won't have these
it's
dumplings.
not happening.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I don't know. I only really remember my Grandma Betty and my Grandpa Jack, and both of them died when I was really young.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually, like, my mom never really carried on any of those traditions.
I was just about to ask.
Yeah,
Oh,
she kind of, I don't think she was like fully connected to her family in the same way.
Fair enough.
She had like a weird growing up.
Yeah.
Where she was like moved homes a lot. She like lived with her friends for a lot of years, lived with her dad separate years, her mom separate years.
Oh, I see.
And her parents were both very absent people.
Yeah.
So I think that like connects a lot to that. And so therefore we were never really close to her side of the family. Not in the same way that I was almost like it was like forced on me to be close to my Japanese family, which is great because I have taken all of that into who I am. And it's a big part of who I am. but it was never forced on me with the Ukrainian family
Right.
in the same way. And I never got to know my mom's dad's side of the family very well,
The Scottish?
which is where the First Nations
Oh,
comes
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
I knew my Aunt Donna was
Indigenous?
was Indigenous. She was my mom's dad's sister, and she's still alive. But she was kind of always someone that we like didn't want to spend a lot of time around, just because she had a lot of like really bad habits.
Fair enough.
Like she smoked a lot in the house and stuff like that. So I didn't really get to know her very well. My mom has a brother, and we don't talk to him anymore.
Fair enough.
He's a real tool. I don't know. Like maybe that's just why I don't really talk about my white family very often. It's just like
fair enough.
We don't really talk to them. My mom recently rekindled a relationship with my Aunt Susan, my Uncle John, who were her mother's. Aunt Susan is my mother's sister.
Right.
She's my aunt. And they're great. I remember them always being really great. My mom really had a strained relationship with them while she was growing up. That was hard for her to let go of for a long time. And I think she's just started to get over that. So she is like rebuilding a relationship with her family, which I think is really nice. Even if it's like later in life.
Yes.
You kind of can only go so long in your life, I think, without like some of your family at least. Obviously a lot of people have strained family relations, but I don't know, I guess it's always something that I associated with my white family, was just having like strained relationships. Whereas like at least in the Japanese family, if any of us had a problem with each other, it was like always hush hush, under the radar. We didn't talk about it,
like we would still hang out.
But we would still kiki, still hang out. So I don't know.
Do you know like what your Indigenous heritage is?
No. And I kind of like, I mourn that like more than I mourn any other like, loss of information about my heritage. My mom's dad was Indigenous.
Yes.
He was mixed Indigenous though, so he was like half British, half Indigenous, and he was a partier. He was never around. So he never talked about that with her, and I don't think she ever asked.
That would be something that would be so cool to find out.
Yeah, it would be really cool. I wouldn't even know where to start with like tracing that one down. Because my mom has like nothing. Like I think that's the difference too between like a lot of white families versus like or like ethnic families, is that if you're descended from immigrants, you likely have like many photos, many paperwork stored around, whereas like your European ancestry either like didn't keep that stuff, or it wasn't like enforced in how important it was to keep stuff like that, and then unless your white family was super religious, like the church would have that information. But if your family's not super religious, then you wouldn't really know, because all those like Ancestry.com, like all those things are linked to like the church, like the United Church,
which is why for a lot of like people of color, they can't use some of those sites because they never kept track of that kind of thing. So, but I think that's so cool that you have Indigenous blood.
It's way back there, it's like a real small fraction, but it is like I've met my family members on that side, it's always been really cool. I don't think about it as often, I guess. It's just all of my mom's side of the family pretty much is like always been pushed to the very back of my mind, because she was never close with them.
Totally. I never really had any strong connection to the white side of my family, solely for the reason kind of like you were saying, I just never had contact with any of the French or the Scottish side of my family. My mom obviously married my dad, who's Japanese, and then her brother married my Aunt Siska, who's Indonesian. So it's only my mom's eldest sister who married another Caucasian person, but because she is I think over a decade older than my mom. Her children, my cousins, were already like adults when I was born, so I never really knew them. I think I've met them 3 times in my life. So, yeah, I just grew up with a very Asian family on kind of both sides of my family. So,
yeah, it was the culture that took over.
it was the culture that took over. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's obviously, as a mixed race person, it's important to be aware of both sides of your heritage. So
We've talked about this recently too with one of our friends found a post on Tumblr from an account called We Are Japanese.
Yeah.
And it was something along the lines of like, I am not just one half of my cultural heritage. I am the other half as well.
Totally.
And she they brought a bunch of really good points to the table about what that means. And it really had me thinking, because our friend who brought this up with us was like, I'm interested in your opinion on this. Like, how do you feel about that? Because we always talk about being Japanese.
Totally.
But we don't, I think what I said to her was like, we don't have to talk about the other half very often.
Right.
We always specify that we're Japanese because when people look at Sakura and I, they're not asking us if we're white.
No.
They know that we're white.
Yeah.
And I think that's like part of the mixed heritage struggle, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where the what are you question bothers us because it's not being asked of us because they're asking if we're white.
Yeah.
They're asking what the other part of us is.
Exactly.
And it's irritating because that's not all of who we are.
Totally. We are very noticeably mixed race. It's not a question. No. It's not a question at all. We are very mixed race.
Yeah.
So when they are asking that question, it is, a little not uncomfortable, but you know what they're getting at, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's always that's why probably that's part of the reason why we don't talk about our white ancestry is because we don't often have to, especially not in Canada.
Yeah.
I think maybe when we live in Japan, if the people that we're around are aware that we are mixed Japanese, maybe we'll get questions about our white heritage. And
well, it's going to be so interesting because I know a lot of mixed people, when they do go to Japan, they're just viewed as white people. They're just seen as white people. So I'm very interested to see if people will be able to identify that we're mixed race. Mm-hmm. And then also the mixed race Japanese community, both in Canada and in Japan, are very tiny.
Yes.
Especially in Japan, very, very tiny percentage of the population is mixed. So they're just not exposed to it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the reasons why I always kind of pushed the white side away was when I was growing up and kids would be saying some not nice things about me in terms of my Japanese heritage. I would try to call them out on it, and they would say things like, oh, well, you're white too, so I'm not actually being racist. And I would just, I don't know. And then I wouldn't know how to respond to that because I am mixed race. So I do have white heritage as well as Japanese heritage. But just because I'm half white doesn't mean that when you call me a racial slur, you're not actually being racist because I'm not full Japanese.
Well, it's kind of sad because even as a child, as a mixed race person, you have to fight to keep that part of your
You have to fight for your identity 100%.
Yeah, and it's I think that's what's ridiculous about it. When people say that to you and they're like, oh, but you're white, so you don't really count.
Yeah, so I can say this to you.
You kind of have to be more vocal. You have to fight for it almost.
Totally.
And as a kid, at least for me, I was a much more soft-spoken child growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Totally.
I often questioned myself. I didn't think a lot about my Japanese ancestry when I was growing up beyond being exposed to it. I didn't think about what that meant in terms of my identity in relation to
totally because it's just heritage. Your family. It's just what you are.
Even and then when kids would say that to me, I would be like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, I guess because I'm not
Full.
from Japan,
Yeah.
because I don't like have my eyes are just slightly almond shaped. You know, like, I guess I'm not Japanese.
Yeah.
Sure, you're right. Because how would I know?
Yeah.
And I also grew up in a neighborhood that I was the only person of Japanese heritage for like 5 kilometers. Like, there was I never grew up with any other person of Japanese heritage. Right. It was always like Chinese, Vietnamese, even in the Asian culture.
In the Asian culture, the Japanese population is one of the smallest populations.
Very small, yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. There is a J-town in Toronto, but again, it's very small and very few people know about it unless you're in the Japanese Canadian community because of how small it is.
Yeah.
There's Chinatown in Toronto. There's Koreatown even in Toronto, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, that totally makes sense because we were all on the West Coast until after World War II, and Toronto was one of the places that we were told we could relocate to. So a Japantown wouldn't have even started until like after like 1950. So it makes sense that there would only be a very small one, if any.
Yeah, and it's close to the suburbs in Toronto, I'm pretty sure. It's near like Stouffville. And I grew up in like almost like center of the city for a long time at least. So that was interesting for me growing up, exposed to like many different like other ethnicities. Like, I wouldn't say that I went to a white neighborhood. I didn't grow up in a white neighborhood, not at all. At least not from like I moved elementary schools after a while. So the first one that I grew up in, very white neighborhood. I moved from that school in like grade 5 to the elementary school that I finished my education in. Finished my early education in.
I finished my education when I was 4 because I'm really smart.
And then I was exposed to like almost every other ethnicity, honestly. So it was hard because I also didn't have anyone to talk to about that. When it was brought up, I was the only one brought up about it. And it was always my last name that was interesting to people because
it's not a white
there's more than one Lee. There's more than one Nguyen at my school.
But
Sugimoto, there's not even like...
Who was she?
Yeah, like not even like the more common like Japanese names at my school. There's no one. So I missed out on that.
Right.
Growing up. So a lot of what I was made to focus on was just being told that I was white. Even from non-white people, I was told that I was white.
I love that.
And I think that that's another like portion of why we don't often like talk about our white ancestry, is just because it's not something that we've ever struggled to.
I've never had to fight for my white ancestry.
I've never had to fight to hold on to my white identity.
Totally. And I think that's a good thing to bring up for people who are potentially listening to our podcast who maybe don't have a lot of mixed race people in their life, or they aren't mixed race themselves,
or
but
mixed with your ethnicity.
Yeah, if you're mixed with white, in no way, shape, or form does that make you a white person. And in no way, shape, or form should you ever feel like you cannot be a part of your culture or your heritage because you're mixed with white. And I see it all the time. Or people who are even like full a part of their heritage, but they're like white passing, not feeling like they can be a part of their community because they're so light skinned. And it's like, no, that is not what it's about. No. That's not what it's about. Your heritage is your heritage. And
when we're talking about people of color, we're not just talking about the color of your skin.
Exactly.
And Sakura and I were talking about this today. We were waiting 2 hours in this lineup for this Japanese cafe in Vancouver that was closing down. We miss you, Usagi Sweets.
Usagi.
But Sakura was talking about how like very, very pale she is, and how
we were looking at our reflections in the window. I'm like, I am so pale.
She's like glowing,
ghostly
she's
white.
Yeah. Which is also like a very like Asian.
It's a beauty standard in Asia.
It's a beauty standard in Asia. Whereas my skin has I'm always a little bit tan. Yeah. Like I have the melanin in my skin.
We're in Vancouver, so we do not see the sun. Ever, but you are definitely
I'm always
like a darker,
little bit tan. Yeah. So and Sakura is actually like half Japanese and I'm quarter Japanese. So again, in regards to like the percentages of your identity, like that's kind of where we're at.
Totally.
In terms of like appearance. So yeah, like struggling to like know whether or not like you can and cannot be called a person of color because of your mixed race identity, and you're told that you're too white to be Asian.
Yes.
But you're too Asian to be white.
100%.
It don't matter.
Yeah, because you would think if like we're so white passing, then if we were in a white community, it would just be all hugs and kisses. But 100% that was not my experience.
No.
I was very much like an outcast and had horrible things said to me like all the time from the get-go. I remember in grade 1, a little boy came up to me and asked me why I looked weird and why my family didn't look like everyone else's family. Why does your dad not look like everyone else's dad?
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, my dad, like I felt like my dad like didn't look like different. I was like, it's just my dad.
Well, that's interesting to bring up too, because like in terms of contrast of experience and how like widely that varies, because I grew up in a very like ethnically diverse community, and I still was told that I wasn't like ethnic enough.
Right.
And Sakura grew up in a very white community
white.
with like recent history of like Japanese specific racism like involved in it. And so I like the point of all of this is just that Sakura and I as mixed race people have never had to fight for our whiteness.
No. Yeah. It was interesting though, growing up, the aesthetic of my house is something called French country. So it's supposed to look like French countryside kind of experience. So I grew up in a household that was like very French looking, which is really, really interesting. But then like my room was like full like Japanese realness. Like this was over my front door. Like it was just, my mom was like, okay, you're kind of ruining the aesthetic, but I'll let you do this. But yeah, it was interesting. I actually have a fleur-de-lis tattooed on the back of my neck because I just remember having a conversation with my mom, and she kind of brought up like, you're just as much like French and Scottish as you are Japanese. Just, a friendly reminder. And I was like, yeah, I guess I don't ever really focus on that or identify with that side. So one of the first tattoos I ever got was a fleur-de-lis literally on the back of my neck. Super visible, the most visible tattoo I think I have. Just to honor the French side of my heritage.
Yeah.
My Scottish grandfather had already passed when I was born. Or sorry, I think like within the first couple of years of me being alive, he passed. So I only grew up with my French grandma, and I loved her so much. I really enjoyed going to Calgary to visit her. She lived with my sister's brother, my uncle, for basically the whole entirety of her elder life. But when we did ever go and visit her, I just remember those experiences so fondly. And both my grandma and my mother speak French. My grandma spoke French fluently. My mom speaks like very broken French. Her accent is very good, but she just doesn't like use it often enough for her to be like super fluent in it. But both me and my sister, when we were going to school in Vancouver, were in French immersion. So we probably, if we had stayed in Vancouver, would have just done all school in French immersion. So it would have been interesting to have that part of my culture in terms of being able to speak the language.
Yeah.
Because I obviously cannot speak Japanese, so I would have had one of my ancestral languages available for me to use. So yeah, I always wonder how things would have turned out if I had stayed in Vancouver and had gone through the Francophone school system.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was also in French immersion.
Yeah, Kyoko can speak French, everybody.
Okay. Well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. I can, sure. Yeah. I can speak French, but I can speak French real slow. Like, I know that one of our regular listeners, hello, is in France.
Oh yeah, we see you.
We see you.
We see you in France,
and we appreciate
love
you
it.
listening on Deezer.
Yes.
Yeah, I can speak French, but like the moment someone tries to speak to me actually in French, who is fluent, I cannot. Like I can't speak like that. I probably sound really dumb when I speak French. I went to France actually in 2019. Yeah. And it really came in handy, my experience with speaking French.
Right.
But and they all, like, everyone that I talked to, like, appreciated that I could speak French, because a lot of people go without even learning how to say bonjour.
Just
anyway.
Watching videos of some tourists in France, I'm just like, bad. Oof.
I have stories. But I'm better probably at just like understanding French. Yeah. Again, within a certain speed, like I can probably understand half speed French.
Right.
It needs to be slowed down for me a little bit. But yeah, I took like a lot of my like major courses in school in French.
I love that.
And we had to do our assignments in French and our book reports in French. And then I was in extended French in like in high school and stuff as well. So it's
interesting. I know so many people who go through French immersion leave French immersion for high school because all the exams you have to write,
it's a lot,
are in French, and then your science is in French, your math is in French. So it's like that's a little too much for me. Like biology in French, like I would not be able to do.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I can't.
Thank God for Google Translate.
On Google Translate.
But no, it's funny. I don't think I realized how much of it I had actually taken in and like kept in my brain until I was in France.
And you were like, here we go.
And I was able to very comfortably converse with many of the people that I came into contact with. And everyone always talks about having negative experiences as a foreigner in France. I had a great experience in France. I love the place. I love Paris.
Yes.
But I get it. Like, I get it.
Both my brother and sister have been there, and they did not enjoy the experience.
Yeah. No one I know has had a good experience.
My mom and dad loved it.
Wonderful.
So,
yeah, I don't know. I think that I probably would have had a worse experience without the ability to speak French. So, being in a white country, learning a white language, definitely paid off, although I don't have French ancestry. I did, however, in regards to like honoring our white ancestry, I did go to Scotland before I went to Japan.
Tell me about Scotland.
Scotland is probably one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to, and I'm fairly well traveled now. For someone my age, I think. Scotland was the first country that I ever went to alone when I started solo traveling. 5 years ago, because I'd gone on a lot of cruises with my family, like growing up. So it's not like I'd never traveled, but I'd never traveled alone before. And it was definitely, for anyone thinking about solo traveling, Scotland is the place to go. It was so easy. Everyone was really, really nice.
I love that.
Not everything was extremely expensive.
Okay.
But then again, like, you have to think about it within context of the fact that it's a European country.
Is it in the pound?
It's in pounds.
The pounds.
Yeah.
Like, so compared to the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, within like context. Yeah. Not everything was extremely expensive, and obviously when you're staying in hostels, it's cheaper, and the hostels are very clean. So yeah, I had a really great time in Scotland, and I think when I was there, suddenly it like the like Scottish, like
your Scottish
blood,
DNA
like really simmered under the skin. It was like, oh, you're here. I like immediately embarrassed myself by developing a really awful Scottish accent in like the first day.
Oh yeah.
And I was like really embarrassed, but it happened. That's definitely like out of a lot of the countries that I've been to, it's been like my best travel experience has been to Scotland.
What was your favorite part of going to Scotland? Was it the food? Was it a certain place you went?
I think I have to say all of it. Like, and I know that that's not super helpful, but it's
if I was like, I'm gonna go to Scotland, you've been, tell me one place like I should really go.
I mean, everyone knows that you have to go to the Highlands. You have to, though. Like, I've been to Ireland too, and don't get me wrong, Ireland is a beautiful country. But I was expecting, I guess, when I went to Ireland, what I had experienced in Scotland,
Right.
and I did not. It's just like once you've seen the Highlands in Scotland, there's literally nothing that's comparable
nothing
to
can
it.
compare.
I mean, I don't know, like I haven't been to maybe like the Netherlands, or or anywhere around there, or New Zealand, which also like might be really, really beautiful landscapes.
Yes.
But the Scottish Highlands are like indescribably beautiful,
just shockingly beautiful.
Truly like transports you to a completely different plane of existence.
Yeah,
it is very magical.
I love that.
And also I think what just adds to that magic is just that the people really like, for like a white country,
yes,
the people there are so cultured.
Interesting.
Super cultured, very proud of their culture.
Okay.
And I like, don't get me wrong, I know that Europeans are very proud of their culture. I get that.
Yes.
But I just like living here in Canada, like where we have a lot of influence from other countries.
Right.
There's no like pride in any of it. It's just kind of like,
no. When you ask a white person here what their ancestry is, they're just like, I don't know. White.
Yeah. Whereas like when you're there,
they're Scottish
anywhere
the house down.
in Europe, I guess, like they're like, hell yeah, I'm Scottish. Like I think one of the first things that my tour guide said on one of the tours that I was in Scotland was like, did you know that the Scottish people invented like this, and this? And it was like all of like the things that we do on like a regular basis.
I love it.
It was like some Scotsman invented it in whatever year.
Hell
and
yeah.
They're so into like history and dates. And that I think was part of the magic for me, because I took a tour through the Highlands and it was 3 days and we went to Loch Ness, and skeptics be damned.
You went to the Loch.
My tour guide straight up convinced like even the most critical people on our tour bus that the Loch Ness Monster is real.
Come on, Nessie.
Because she just had all this information.
Yeah.
And it was so convincing.
Yeah. We love a cryptid.
Yeah. Or like you're like all the way onto the Isle of Skye.
Oh,
and
the
your
Isle
tour
of
guide has
Skye.
all of the legendary stories of the old
100%.
clans, and the reason why that mountain looks so flat on top is because it used to like belong to a giant that belonged to the clan of the MacLeods.
Yes.
The MacLeods versus the other like clan on the Isle of Skye, and that was just so enrapturing. So that really, like, that trip really, it was 10 days. It wasn't too long.
Yeah.
Really made me feel very well connected to my Scottish roots.
I can't wait to go.
And I really wish that we had that information to kind of know who
our ancestors were.
Who our ancestors were there.
Yeah, because we might have like a tartan. We might have a family crest over there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We just have a castle.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's the thing too. You can't just like buy a castle over there. Like that shit is inherited.
It's passed down through the family.
Yeah, see.
I'm convinced that we are either Japanese princesses or Scottish princesses. Like the Brave.
Back onto our fantasies.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching Brave was absolutely
I was like this is
a good
me.
time.
Yeah. I am her.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I think that's nice about knowing your European ancestry even a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like personally out of Scotland and France, I'm more drawn to Scotland.
Yeah.
For the reasons that you said, just the environment there, because I'm like very outdoorsy, very naturey, and the Highlands just call to me all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would absolutely love to go to France. Were you just in Paris?
Yeah, I only had time to spend. I guess I was in Paris for 6 days.
Okay.
But anyone who's been to Paris will tell you that that's not enough time.
Honey, that's not enough.
I did like venture out to Versailles, but again, that's like at least a full day's like expedition.
Right.
And I spent, I think, like 6 hours just at the palace.
Hell yeah.
Out there. But yeah, I was on like a month-long trip because one of my other friends was getting married in Ireland at the time, and I just figured that I would run with it because all the flights within Europe are super cheap.
And trains.
And trains,
totally.
exactly. So I was only in Paris, but I would 100,000% go back. I met some really amazing people that I'm still friends with in Paris.
I love that.
Because one of them actually lives or is from Vancouver, which was really funny. Like it was a small world. But
I love it.
Yeah,
you could tell. You heard their accent and you were like, oh, she's from Vancouver.
No, we were like in like a free walking tour and everyone was like, hi, my name is this and I'm from this country and city.
That's crazy.
And she like raised her hand and I was like, oh my God. We like locked eyes.
You locked eyes
we were,
immediately.
We're going to be friends, which was great because we were both traveling solo.
Yes.
And we were both like in our early 20s.
I love that.
So we were like, okay, that's it.
You could smell the maple syrup coming off of.
Yes, I could smell the Tim Hortons.
You could smell that double like. Oh my God.
And it was great. And like when we both ended up being back in Vancouver, like we did connect and go for ramen actually.
I love that. You're like, now let me show you like my heritage, honey.
My other my main heritage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love being Scottish so much. I vibe with it hard.
Yeah, I completely vibe with my Scottish side. I do want to go to the Ukraine at some point.
Hell yeah.
So funny stuff, my Japanese dad
Your Japanese
remarried like another Ukrainian lady.
He's just here for the Ukrainians.
Who's the mother of my like baby sister. Yes. I've got two sisters. So it's fun because we both have Ukrainian backgrounds and Japanese backgrounds, which I think is hilarious.
That's hilarious.
So we're like the exact same mix, pretty much. Well, not the exact same, but mainly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious.
I love that.
Because now at Christmas time, whenever I'm spending it with my dad, my stepmother will like find ways to incorporate like the Ukrainian traditions.
And does your stepmother have like still a lot of?
Yeah, lots. Yeah,
oh,
she had lots of Ukrainian influence growing up.
Yeah.
Way more so than my mother.
Okay.
So in the last couple years, because they've only been together for like four years now. They have a baby. It's funny.
They got down to
who's
business,
3 years
honey.
old. Yeah. Anyway. Even just like the last couple years being a family together over the holidays has been interesting to get like a bit of a taste of the Ukrainian heritage that I didn't really get to experience a lot of growing up. She like hand makes pierogies.
You have to.
The cabbage rolls and
the cabbage rolls though.
That's been really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she told me a story recently about her experience going to the Ukraine, and when she was solo traveling in her 20s, and she like had one of those experiences where like
the ancestral
you're like going
experience.
going to the motherland. And like, to be honest, before she brought it up with me, I'd never actually thought about going to the Ukraine.
Right.
I just wasn't connected enough to that side of me. But
she's ignited the Ukrainian fire.
Yeah, she sparked the flame.
She sparked the flame.
Thanks,
honey.
Nicole.
Yes. Shout out to Nicole.
But yeah, so I hope that someday I can do that, especially now that I'm approaching my mid-20s.
Yes.
And I'm really like going deep into the like identity crisis. Really like going deep into like
that early 20 identity, that early 20s identity crisis.
Yeah, realizing that I put a lot of focus on my Japanese ancestry and knowing that at least now I have the interest in diving into my Ukrainian ancestry.
Totally.
So hopefully at some point in the future I'll be able to do that.
Yeah. I feel like since I've become so grounded and so sure of myself as a Japanese person, it's now opened up space for me to accept the Scottish and the French heritage in my family, where before I was like, no, I'm Japanese.
Yeah.
I need to be Japanese, only Japanese.
Yeah.
You know,
where the angry Asian woman comes out.
Because it was constantly like, you're not Japanese, you're not Japanese.
Yeah.
And me having to fight against that.
Yeah.
Now that I give no Fs, like I do not care what you think of me in terms of my race, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm a Scottish queen, I'm a French queen.
Yeah, you're more secure.
Did you see me at Versailles?
I could see you
just lounging.
It's like before we even met. Like I could like see your mirage.
You saw my
like,
soul.
My God.
My mirage. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I think that is like a nice part of this entire experience. Just approaching my mid-20s.
Yes.
Going through all of the discoveries that I have gone through, especially over the last year with everything that I've discovered about my Japanese Ancestry.
Right.
That's felt like such an accomplishment. But still knowing that that journey is incomplete without knowing about the Ukrainian ancestry as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just Japanese.
Exactly.
I'm part Ukrainian, I'm part Scottish.
She's mixed, honey.
She's real mixed.
Oh, she's
mixed that
up.
Heinz 57 girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to being able to dive into that later on.
Totally.
Learn how to make pierogies.
She's gonna pierogi the house down, mama.
Oh my god, can you imagine a night where it's like pierogies, mochi, we've got all of the mix in there.
Hell yeah. We should like
a meat pie.
do like a Japanese fusion with your pierogies.
What would that look like, Sakura? Like rice filled. It's like inari, but instead of the tofu stack, it's like a pierogi.
Oh my god. No, it's actually so funny that I just randomly brought that up because when we were growing up, if we ever had pierogies, it would be teriyaki pierogies.
Oh, what is that? Excuse me?
So just drizzling teriyaki sauce onto the pierogies and tossing it up with like bacon bits and like sauteed onions. My mom was always just like trying to have off. Tracy was always trying to incorporate that Japanese heritage into our lives, and I live. Your Ukrainian side, you're like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I could feel like my ancestors cringing.
They're just crossing their arms and shaking
their heads at me. Oh my god, my Ukrainian ancestors are like, you know that too, like the babas are just like bent over, like
the babas are they're turning away from you.
Yeah,
honey.
they're like
they're leaving the room.
Their scarves directly over their eyes, like no. No.
I live.
Yeah, I think what's another thing that's like really nice about Maya and I sharing Ukrainian ancestry is that maybe that'll be just another thing that I'm able to pass on to her.
Yeah.
But I also like find a lot of comfort in the fact that she will get the exposure to the Ukrainian side.
Yes.
I almost think it'll be like almost the reverse with her growing up, where she'll get way more exposure to the Ukrainian side than the Japanese side.
Totally.
Because our Oba-san and Oji-san are no longer here.
Yes.
And we're on the West Coast, and our Japanese family's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So my dad and I are really going to have to be
You're just out
here
like, just, yeah.
I'm going to have
sprinkling
to, like,
cherry blossoms
ship
on
back
her.
a new yukata kimono for 100%. Her, like, every year so that she never forgets.
Haven't you already had a conversation with her where you're like, do you know you're Ukrainian? Do you know you're Japanese?
Fun story.
Do you know you're mixed?
Oh my god.
Yeah. She's like 2. She's so like,
cute.
Yes.
She's 3 years old.
Oh,
she's old enough to know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I went home for Christmas and I was looking after my baby sister, and we were outside in the backyard and I was pushing her on the swing, and I was just like, Maya, did you know that you're Japanese? And she was like, no.
No.
And I was like, what's your last name, Maya? And she was like, Sugimoto. And I was like, that's right. Yeah. And I was like, the name Sugimoto is Japanese. And she was like, oh. And I was like, and you're also Ukrainian. And she was like, oh. And I was like,
the wheels just start turning.
And I was like, your mommy's Ukrainian and daddy is Japanese. And she was like, daddy's Japanese. And I was like, hell yeah, that's right. And I was like, and you are? And she was like, I'm all mixed up. And we like screamed. I fell on the floor laughing. It was so funny.
Nicole was with you?
No, Nicole came over like afterwards. Yeah. And like I think Maya was like, Mommy, I'm all mixed up. And I had to like explain what I had done.
She's like, what? What are you confused about? You're like, no.
We're laughing so hard. And then I think my dad was like working out in his like garage gym, and we like went over there, and I was like, Maya, like, tell daddy what you are.
Oh, tell daddy what you are.
Oh no. And she was like, daddy, I'm all mixed up. And my dad like had to put down whatever like weight he was holding just to like keeled over laughing. I was like, that is the cutest thing I think I've ever heard come out of a little girl's mouth.
Totally.
So the moral of the story here is, don't be afraid to talk to your 3-year-old sibling about your mixed identity.
Mixed heritage.
Yeah. I like also went in this Christmas and like bought her all of Jeff Chiba Stern's
Oh,
children's books.
I
was like, she needs to learn.
She needs to know.
I think the Mixed Critters one is like my favorite for her because it like mixes up different animals so that you get used to the idea of like genuinely having like mixed like things in one person, one animal.
Yes.
So we had a lot of fun with that over Christmas.
Love that. Did you read them with her?
I read Mixed Critters with her.
I love that.
But I had got her also like a personalized novel
right,
with her name in it and stuff, so we mostly read that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really funny introduction for her.
I love that. Starting her young.
You gotta start them young.
My nieces unfortunately don't live in the same province as me, so I've actually never met them, and I'm probably not going to have a lot of exposure to them, just because they're in a very isolated community. But I'm definitely going to be the person to be like, you're a mixed race. Like I'm definitely going to be like,
there's time.
You're British, but you're also Japanese.
Never forget. Oh my God.
You're UK heritage, but also
you're
Japanese heritage. Oh my God.
You're like Moana's ancestors coming for her.
I'm
in the water.
Exactly. Oh God.
I'm
just a stranger. I just appear out of nowhere like, you're mixed race. Oh my God. Yeah, we start crying.
Yeah. No, I love that. Always pull your younger generations aside and let them know.
I love it.
That they're mixed race.
Yeah. Let the people know.
They're not just white.
Yeah.
They're not just Japanese either.
No. They're a mixed. Oh.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our fun ASMR episode where we're whispering into the mics.
Oh my God.
Thanks for tuning in this week.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
We've been your hosts. I'm Kyoko.
I'm Sakura.
And on Instagram, you can find me at This Is Kyoko.
And you can find me at saku.miki.
And if you just want to follow on for podcast stuff, learn new things, we are at Hafu It.
On basically all our socials.
Our only social is Instagram.
I live.
We are on Instagram as at Hafu It.
Yeah, come find us.
Come find us. Come follow along. We're going to post some fun stuff, I promise.
Oh my God.
Well, until then, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Sayonara.